I set bad axe tooth lines for years with a collection of old Seymour Smith saw sets manufactured back in the 1870s. It's always a wonder how a tool that's over 150 years old is still just as viable today as they were back then. Today, I'm going to demonstrate how to restore one of these old gems with a few simple tools like the ones you see on my bench in this picture. Examine the set closely. Note how the anvil is dovetailed in place with a little brass shim making it stick. Also note how the punch and anvil both are a little deformed over time. The key is to establish a crisp mating between the two so one can make a very well-defined set on the tooth line with a clearly defined break line just above the gullet of the tooth. Begin by removing the set strength screw at the front of the chassis. Next, remove the two brass fences on both sides of the chassis. Now set the saw set over a hole in your bench to stabilize it, and then punch out the dovetailed anvil out of the socket that holds it. Note the little brass shim that holds the anvil inside of the socket with a friction fit. Set that aside and don't lose it. You'll need it for reassembly later. Now carefully grind the anvil on the two top faces without changing the anvil. You can do this on some abrasive adhered to your bench or on a grinder. By the time you're done, this is what your anvil should look like. Note the crisp break line between the two facets on the top surface. Now lay the chassis back down over the hole in your bench or some sort of void. You can cinch it up in your vise and knock out the pin that keeps the punch in place. Use needle nose pliers to pull that pin out once you have it started. Now lay all your components out nice and neatly. Here they are. Keep track of them. This part's pretty simple. Just clean up the chassis. Get rid of all the dirt and grime. Now you can knock the dovetailed anvil back into the socket. Now secure the punch itself face up inside of an anvil and grind it. You want to clean up that face and get rid of any deformities. You can do this with a file or you can take it to a slow speed grinder. The key thing is to make sure that it matches the top surface of the anvil precisely. Now using your punch, make micro adjustments to the mating relationship between the punch and the anvil such that the corner tip of the anvil extends over the break line by about a 32nd of an inch. Now screw the little brass fences back onto the chassis. Next, you'll fasten the set strength screw back into the hole where it belongs. I often find using some plumber's tape, Teflon tape, will help it stay in there a little better without slop. Finally, you're going to take a strip of emery cloth and put it between the punch and the anvil. Pull the strip out repeatedly until you have a perfect match between the face of the punch and the face of the anvil. And now your work is done. If you're a saw maker like me, collect as many of these as possible and set them up for your desired points per inch. I had long wanted to reproduce the Seymour Smith saw set when I was still at the helm of Bad Axe. And before selling the company to my employees, had just started to put that into motion. I'm very proud to say that Cass and crew at Bad Axe Toolworks now has the Bad Axe interpretation of the Seymour Smith saw set on sale now at their website. And the only difference between the Bad Axe version and the version from 150 years ago is essentially tighter tolerances and tougher metal, and that's about it. Want to learn more about these saw sets and how to use them? Hell, for that matter, do you want to learn how to sharpen your own saw? Then come to one of my seminars. You'll see here in these clips my regularly scheduled seminar dates. Plus, we're also doing Sawapalooza again this year, the third iteration of it, over at the Mike Simpson School of Wood. I hope to see you at one or both. Thanks for watching.